Okay, let's do this. What are some of the greatest movies in horror history? How about Frankenstein from 1931, introducing Boris Karloff as the monster? Might be the best horror film to come out of that era. How about Psycho, the first big slasher movie? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes to mind. But the one that I love the most and always turn back to is John Carpenter's Halloween. I watched a documentary recently done by the BBC by Mark Gatiss. He stated that Halloween ushered in the age of the slasher. He also stated that there really hasn't been anything new since then. So in a way, Halloween is the grandfather of all modern movies. This movie impresses on so many levels, not to mention they made this movie for $320,000 and grossed $60 million worldwide. Now that's impressive. When I think of this movie, I always think of The Mask first. Most fans are aware of what The Mask actually is, but for those who don't, it's a William Shatner mask, painted white and the hair brushed out. But really, I couldn't imagine any other mask whatsoever. There are a lot of weird facts about this movie that I came across, and I can't mention them all, but I'll mention a few that I thought were neat. Christopher Lee, Dracula himself, was approached for the role of Sam Loomis, but turned it down. He said it was the biggest mistake of his career. They shot this in the spring as well, not the fall, so they had to paint some leaves as though they were turning. They would recycle this for other scenes. I can't imagine how tedious this must have been. Also, if you caught the television special release, you'd know that Michael Myers' middle name is actually Audrey. This was also voted the 5th scariest movie of all time by Entertainment Weekly, which is great, but I think this movie, despite its being scary for some, I just find it interesting. It's hard to explain, but the way this character is written, it's so simple, but I can't imagine Michael any other way. I like Tyler Mane and that Michael, but it just doesn't seem like the same character to me. Normally I give an in-depth play-by-play with commentary, but I thought I'd do something a little different for Halloween, and see if you like it. I'm just going to whip through the movie very fast and then give you my top 5 reasons why I think Halloween was great. First off, the piano in Carpenter's theme are simple but so impactful. It's such a great opening, and it sets the tone for the rest of the film. Well, it starts off with Mike killing his sister. I always thought the guy that slept with Mike's sister was funny. He's done and then he just splits. We also get a first-person view, which is pretty interesting. I find it a little off, the parents just staring at him for so long when they come home. Dr. Loomis's car chat, though, pretty awesome, and it was awesome when you get to see all the inmates loose. Michael takes off with the car. The empty street showing Haddonfield for the first time, barren with all the leaves, I just think it's really neat. We meet Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and we meet Tommy Doyle, who, I don't know, he just annoys me. Anyway, Laurie drops the key off, and we see Mike. Anyway, just to speed this up, Michael gets into Haddonfield. He takes out Laurie's friends one by one. Meanwhile, Loomis and the sheriff search. Basically, Michael ends up back at the house with Laurie and strangles her. Dr. Loomis shows up and opens fire on Michael. He shoots him several more times, and Michael falls off the balcony. When Dr. Loomis goes to check, he's gone. Which leads into the second movie, where it takes place in the same night. Typical for 70s horror genre, it does not end on a positive note, but up in the air with no clear victor. Now, I went through that quickly because it's such a well-known movie, and I wanted to focus on something a little different. I wanted to look at why this movie did so well in my opinion, and what were the top 5 reasons, for me, that this movie was such a success and a favorite of mine. So here it is, my top 5 reasons Halloween rocks. Number 5, setting. Setting in this movie is great. The neighborhood they live in looks so warm and peaceful. In introducing Haddonfield, we get a great shot of the bare streets and the leaves blowing. John Carpenter wanted this in the film as it reminded him of where he grew up, the bare streets with nobody out. The homes that were chosen looked great. On the outside and your average looking interiors. It made it seem like it could be your home. Everything looked blue collar and comfortable, which I think made Michael seem that much more out of place and wondrous in a frightening way. Number 4, music. The tune for Halloween is likely one of the most recognizable tunes in any genre, let alone just horror. Let's give it a listen. Number 3, Story. The story of Halloween to me is a lot of suggestion that gets your mind going. If you're like me, you've seen this movie a million times, but for a moment try to think back to your first time watching it. At the beginning, you take him for a psycho from a mental institution, but then shortly you see he can kill. But the brilliant thing is, when Carpenter decided to make the characters seem everywhere. A personal favorite moment of this is when Laurie sees him seemingly disappear before her eyes. Later in the movie, he comes out from nowhere for his victims, and by the end of the movie we accept that he walked away from all those gunshots. Now that's great writing. Michael is so mysterious in this. Think about it. If this was your first time watching, what is Michael's motive? The mystery of Michael in this is fitting, and the story is always moving with very few. Actually, I can't think of any run-on pointless scenes. Number 2, Donald Pleasence. Donald Pleasence is one of the great actors of the 20th century. I believe with his strong acting as Loomis, it gave the movie a chance to reach some older audience members, as well as because of his name. If you aren't familiar with his work, check out a movie called The Great Escape. It's about a group of World War II soldiers who are all breakout experts, and they're put in one camp. Pleasence played the forger, and I highly recommend it. Anyways, he built a reputation, and I believe he brought a lot of experience and delivered a great performance. I love his speeches about Michael. They make the hair on your neck stand up. It's sad that he couldn't live on to make H2O, but he'll always be remembered by Halloween fans. Number 1, Direction. John Carpenter's direction was great. The beginning, what appears to be one long sequential shot at the start, where Michael kills his sister, was actually 3 shots, but a great idea. After, you really felt like you were on a trip with the young boy. The choice of keeping Michael as what he calls the shape gave you a feeling that he was in the shadows everywhere. I think a great shot, and maybe the most popular moment, is when Laurie is sitting at the door, and then all of a sudden Michael rises and looks at her. That has to be one of the greatest moments in horror history. I think Halloween, a horror juggernaut, easily warrants a 10 out of 10. It is simple yet leaves so much to the imagination. John Carpenter had great vision from writing to directing. Michael Myers remains one of the most fascinating characters ever conceived on the big screen. The silent, emotionless, faceless thing inside of a human body. Well, anyway, I hope everybody has a great Halloween. I'll be back in a few weeks with more reviews. Take care, and thanks for watching. Bye.